So, hi guys. Once again, welcome to Eva Corner. My name is Eva Usen, and today I have with me an amazing guest that will be sharing her resilient story with us. How she, survived childhood trauma, and she'll be sharing with us some of those secrets, so that those of us that are having a hard time with one challenge or the other, would draw inspiration for her. Topsy,
Yes,
welcome once
thank
again.
you.
Thank you for coming
You're
once
welcome.
again. It's an honor to always have you share your story.
hmm
Like, I can never get tired of hearing that.
I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, so before we delve in,
hmm
let's hear an introduction.
Sean.
Who is Topsy?
All right, so my full name is
Mm-hmm.
Sarah Oluwatope Olofi. I haven't missed out one name. I have a compound biblical name
Are you
according to my
serious?
dad. It's Sarah Rose Oluwatope Olofi.
Wow.
And so this is always the hard part for me when they say introduce yourself. So let me talk about the fun part.
Okay.
The fun part of me is I actually love to make people laugh, and
Mm.
the reason behind that is when I look at my childhood, I did a lot of crying. I was
Mm.
sad a lot. I didn't have that, jovial, be yourself. My There's one of my uncles that used to say I was an old woman first before became a young
A young
person. So
person. Mm.
so I love to make people around me laugh or smile. I love them to be happy and very comfortable. Career wise, I when I went into the labor market, I went in as an entrepreneur, and I did that for the longest time. The
Okay.
last 2 or 3 years will be me being in the labor market for one of the first times in my life, and
Mm.
I've done it for just 3 years.
Wow.
And there's a part of me that wants to say I'm more successful in the labor market where I'm an employee than when I
An
was,
entrepreneur.
yeah, an entrepreneur and employer. But my husband will beg to differ, but that's how I feel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you share moments where you had colorful memories from your
Oh,
childhood?
definitely.
Wow.
One of my earliest memories is actually a happy one. I remember standing in the corridor of the house I grew up in, and my daddy walks in and he's like, "How old are you today?" And I think I said something like, "I'm two." He said, "No, you're three." That's that's one memory I always look to, and I'm kind of happy. I think another one would be no, I don't know how people would take it, but for me it's a happy moment because again my dad was a very strict person.
Okay.
So on one of our trips to the US like that, he asked me and my sisters to come to his room. I think he wanted to give us something, or we wanted to drop something up for him, so we should come to his hotel room. So when we got there, he says, "Hello, my sweetheart." My sisters and I just looked at ourselves.
Mm.
Is it the same man? We've never experienced him in that,
Light.
yeah, that loving. So it
Mm.
was strange to us, but
And
anytime I think about it, even in moments where I feel he could have been in quotes, and I'm saying in quotes, maybe kinder or more empathetic to my sisters and I, is something that always makes me smile. Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. I think almost every African child has that moment where they're like, "Are you sure that's that?" Oh my god! Because before we go further, I remember there was also an incident. My dad is the typical army guy, like
Yeah,
soldier,
very.
strict, And then one Christmas, I think he had one alcohol too
Mm-hmm,
many, and we were sitting, obviously
mm-hmm.
looking at our revered king, and then he said, "My daughter, come, let's dance." I'm like, same figure.
I can imagine. I can imagine the look that would have been on your face.
All of us were like, "No, please." I wish I could disappear, but like those are like looking back, those are like some of the very few colorful
Mm.
moments. And yeah. So back to you, Topsy. What is, or what would you say childhood trauma is to you?
To me, okay.
Yeah.
I would say there are those moments when I look back at my childhood and I couldn't speak for myself. I
Mm.
couldn't have anyone speak for me. I felt alone in this world, or I felt alone where I was in a situation where I felt, I would drown, or, there's no solution to this. There's nobody I can go to help. It's childhood trauma is when you think of those times. I mean, if it's not something that you've dealt with, it can suck you into a
Yeah.
dark
Yes.
a dark place. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
how I would describe it. A lot of words, but simply put, is those moments where you think about situations and circumstances that happened in your childhood and you are, I would say, beyond sad, down. It can be very depressing.
Yes.
That's what I'll describe it
Yeah.
as.
And it is never an easy subject to talk about.
Mm,
Like there are some persons that had this trauma long time, maybe like 30 years ago,
mm,
and you can't even get them to talk
about it.
about it. So it's amazing that you're here, and ready to put your story out there. It's bravery,
Thank
actually.
you.
Let's talk about some of those experiences, moments. Because if you're seated here, it means that to talk about this, it means that to a certain extent, to a greater extent, you've taken charge of your
Mm,
life.
mm,
Like you're no longer a slave to your past, as
past.
they'll say it. So, what are those moments that have
That
shaped
shaped
you,
me.
made you who you are today?
Okay. I want to say one of the moments that shaped me was actually losing my dad. When I lost him, I used to always tell people this. One of my first thoughts was, where would I live? And what I meant by where would I live, even though the house I was in, he and his friend had bought it, it was practically theirs. They were living side by side. So it's not as if anybody was going to kick me
Choose
out.
you guys.
But for me, what I expressed it as later down the years is that I had come to realize him as the home, the
Mm,
house. So when he's gone, it was as if like my house
was
had gone.
mm,
So one of the first things that shaped me and let me know that I used to tell Vi this all the time. I'm no better than the guy that sleeps under the bridge. I'm
mm,
just lucky
mm-hmm.
was losing my dad. It can happen to anyone. I
Yeah.
remember thinking that no, this guy cannot die. It felt invisible to me.
Mm,
So seeing that was almost like it. And then I was overprotected. They won't let me visit my friend's house. He had to know who the friend is. If he disapproved, they can't come to my house. It was a very overprotected childhood. So when that happened, it was like my first taste of this is reality. This
mm-hmm.
thing can happen to anybody.
Anybody.
Then I took it further than the fact that I have an education. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm privileged. I could have just been selling tomato. I could have been. It
Imagine.
gave me a different perspective to
To
life.
life.
The aftermath of his death, and why I say aftermath of his death was the way people treated me after he was gone. They are just those people that have that commanding presence. To a large extent, my dad was the firstborn of his parents, so he. I don't say he automatically had it, but that's how I feel. Being
Mm,
that he was the first, he was sort of a leader to his siblings. He was a leader to a lot of his cousins.
mm-hmm.
Even aunties, uncles would reach out to him for advice,
Mm-hmm.
and then he was also a minister in the church. I mean, it shouldn't be that way. I don't know why it turned out that way, but once I lost him, that I guess his respect and everything which he built went with
With
him, and
him
then I saw a different side
to
to people.
people.
Yeah.
Well, we have you here stronger and better. So
Yes.
it means that the lemons that life threw at you, you made
I
a
tried
lemonade.
to
You
make.
actually made lemonade. Don't be modest, you did. So let's now go deeper. Yeah,
Okay.
if you're comfortable with
Mm-hmm.
it. Your journey as a trauma survivor, can you tell us where your traumatic experiences started from?
Okay, so one of my first memories of like my traumatic experience So there was a day, my sister, it wasn't me. My sister was walking in. I was on the balcony. I was looking at her. We had a megad then. I think there was either he said something to her and she replied back. Some of these guys
Mm-hmm.
make very derogatory statements, fine girl or something like that. And then we were raised by strict dads. And she said something like, don't say that to me. And I say you are talking to me like that, your mad mother. Now I've always known, there was something wrong with my mom. She wasn't.
Mm.
I've always known, but that did it for me. I remember wanting to cry, but I couldn't cry. But I don't know if you've ever had that first memory of like a heartbreak or something
Mm-hmm.
that pained you, but it wasn't paining you body
Physically,
wise.
yes.
So that was one of it. Another one would have been, again, I was a very stubborn child. My dad, for reasons known to him, used to use wires to flog me and my sisters. He had this
Wow.
thick wire. There was a day I said something to Becky. I'm not sure if it's Becky is my eldest sister.
Okay.
Again, I was a child saying all sorts of stupid things. I don't think it's the day I told her police will shoot her, but I said something. Uh, Man, he took that wire and flogged me. And flogged me so much that I had a cut on my neck,
Wow.
somewhere around here. He just pulled my head forward, looked at it, pushed my head back, and told me, "Good for you." And
Wow.
I remember looking at him like,
You my dad.
"Are you not the person that's supposed?" And he was a medical doctor
Wow.
that's supposed to be, in quote, my protector. And again, these are, I don't know if it's wrong for me to feel this way, but these are, things I just kept adding up. There's even one I just remembered now. I was, again, I was a kid. I was probably 6 or 7, and I don't know if you ever had this game with your siblings where you be mumbling a lot of rubbish. It doesn't really make any sense. But you are pretending like you're speaking a language that's not English language. And I was doing that and I was obviously making noise. He came out and asked me, "What did you say?" Now, as a child, the word rubbish then looked like a big word to me.
Okay.
And I felt I was at the age where I'm not supposed to know the
Say
word rubbish.
rubbish.
Children have very funny
Yes,
mindsets.
yes.
So say, "What were you saying?" I wanted to say I was saying rubbish, but I was afraid you asked me what's the meaning of rubbish, and I won't be able to give a definition.
Mm-hmm.
So I was saying, he just brought out the cane and kept flogging me. "What were you saying?" He kept flogging me. "What were you saying?" I was saying, eventually I said, it was like I was backed up at a wall.
So you had to say
So I said, "I
something.
was saying rubbish." He said, "That's what I wanted you to say." Anytime I think of it, like, my dad was mean. It was
Mm.
obvious I was saying rubbish. I don't
Like,
think I
why
needed to
did
be
you say it
flogged.
for him
I mean,
to?
it was obvious we were playing. Me and my sisters were playing,
Mm-hmm.
and you came and turned it into. I remember recounting the story to someone, and I'm like, "I love my dad, though, but yeah, that was mean."
Like you couldn't
I
understand where that
couldn't
was
understand where it
coming
was
from.
coming from. Yeah, I can say a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I remember. I don't know if you were in Lagos when there was a period when NEPA was like crazy bad, and he had gotten us a Nintendo, and we had this phase that usually would fluctuate. One of the days, the phase was fluctuating, you know. But this time I'm probably was 10, 11. The phase was fluctuating. So I just thought maybe if I put off the microwave, if I put off the fridge, it will
To
stabilize.
stabilize.
So I went and did that. Apparently, he was in his room working on his computer on a very important document. I wasn't privy to that information. So and I'm speculating that this is what he was doing.
Doing.
And it's over the years I realized that is probably what will charge him to. Anyway, I put it off and he comes out of the room. "Did they take light?" I say, "Oh no." I put off the. I remember vividly him rushing towards me and giving me in short, when he slapped me, when they say you see stars, I saw flashes of light. And as in my mind, what did I do? Like, I couldn't understand. Is there light? I put off the and you I couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
It was years later I decided, okay, let me give a reason. Probably was working on
or something.
something.
That was why.
Yeah,
What?
but
But like, it's not like you're sure he was
I
working
mean,
on
he's a
something
human being. This is what I felt. You're a human being. I think it was easy for you to deduce. I didn't do that purposely.
on purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you were way older than me. You
Mm-hmm.
know that children are, in quote, foolish and they do silly
You do
things.
things.
But
Yeah.
come on, anyway. So those are some of the ones that are
You.
traumatic, but not as traumatic as later on in life. Yeah.
When you say later on in
Like
life.
when I got to like my teens, I
Mm-hmm.
remember as a 15-year-old girl, I would read about girls being molested, and how hard it was for them to come out or tell their parents, or they might even tell their mom, and their mom will say it's their fault. There's one particular uh, guy. He's probably older than my dad, but they went to school too. They were in that clique.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when he groped my butt, and I was in when I got home that day. I was, reading. I said, no, it's not the same. Like I was playing mind gymnastics. It's not the same. But I'm friends with his son, so maybe he thought he was my dad. Then something said, but has your dad never done that to you?
First,
It's like I thought I was getting to a point where I was losing my mind. I was trying to make sense of it, and my final conclusion was, okay, maybe it's the way I'm dressing. So let
imagine
me let me change my dressing so I won't send men to hell.
as a
Till this
15
day,
year old.
yeah, till this day, I still wear like really baggy clothes when I remember that,
Mm,
or if I feel like my butt is showing too much, I'll wear a shirt over it that can
mm,
cover it.
wow.
So that is like a traumatic experience till today.
Till
I've carried
today,
it. It's just
yeah.
that I'm more conscious to say, nah, it
There's
wasn't your
no,
fault. You're not.
yeah.
You didn't do anything.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. That's very deep. Hearing some of these stories, it just like no child should ever be
I agree.
made to feel like it's their fault for any reason. One, two, no child should ever be in a position where they have to make excuses for adults.
Hmm.
Looking at this generation, I think we have a generation of more aware
I
parents.
agree. I
So
totally agree. Anytime I look back to what I went through, I remember I used to say it a lot then. When I have kids, I'm not going to beat them to a point where they don't talk.
yeah,
I was going to talk about this. Let me not forget. Like one traumatic experience I had was I couldn't even tell anybody when I wanted to use the restroom. I'd rather pee on myself than tell you I want to go to the
because you
restroom
couldn't
and you will
talk.
shout at. No, my dad would always shout. Like he would
Like
always.
even for using restroom.
It, there was nothing I didn't put past him. That please can I have to? No, you can't have it. Like, why
Wow.
are you asking me? Can't you see that? So in my head, there was nothing that you. In short, don't talk to him. If you want to have a great day, just
Just
mind
try
your
and be on
business.
your own.
Stay out of his way. So, and
Wow.
I carried this to my GSS too. When I went
Wow.
for common entrance, I peed on myself. When I went to write my ISL, when they wanted us to go to university, University of Lagos Secondary School, I peed on myself. I can countless of times we'll be in the shopping mall in the US. I'll pee on myself because I've been holding the pee,
And you
but
don't want to
I don't
say
want to tell
anything.
anyone because I
Yeah.
don't know if they will shout on me.
Shout. Wow.
So that's also another traumatic experience I held on to. Like it damaged me.
It's just as we're saying, like good thing we have like, like I can't give statistics because obviously no one
Mm.
has taken it, or maybe, by the time we have like our research person on board.
Yes,
Oh
they
no.
would give us facts.
But I think that like a lot of this generational parents are aware.
I agree
They are
100%.
present, so to say.
And it could be a factor of the fact that a lot of us can relate
True.
to those.
So no, but I think that you cannot even you can't relate it to that because a lot of our parents, for me, I know my parents they had experiences with trauma,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
but so that's why sometimes I'm like, so if you went through this, why
Why are
can't you
you?
understand? So I
Hmm.
think it's just a mind shift
It's a
for
mind
us.
shift.
Yes.
Another thing is during our parents' time, I don't think there was a lot of sharing like we do now.
Yes. So what changed? Why are we sharing?
Social media.
So it's not a maintenance after all.
Well, there's also a part of me that feels things just shifted from appearing like to knowing what is really the problem.
Yeah.
So let's say, and again, I don't have facts. Our parents did a lot of putting up with the Joneses. I want to look a certain way,
Yeah.
whereas our generation is, well, if you see me as this is what I
And then
am,
that's who I
that's
am.
fine. Yeah.
I also think it's exposure
Mm.
because now some of us have been opportuned to speak with different minds, right?
Ah, that's true. That's
Especially the
true.
Western mind. So we
With yeah,
see what is in
there's the mixture of
network.
culture,
Yeah. So
the
now you now know.
ah
So this is true. This is not normal. It's an anomaly. There's
mm,
something wrong.
I agree.
From our conversations and obviously our hanging out and all of that, there is obviously something I know about you.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And that is your religious
Stance,
belief,
my worldview,
yes,
yeah.
or lack thereof,
Lack of thereof, yes, yes.
according to
I understand.
my. So, what would you say that is as a result of these experiences, these traumatic experiences that you've shared?
Shared
And aside that, how have these experiences gone on to shape? How did they affect your adult
the
life?
life. Okay, um, so let me put a bit more clarity to what you said, especially because of our viewers. So what she's trying to say in so many words is, I have an atheistic worldview, or as
Okay.
most people would say, I'm an atheist.
Atheist.
And you said, did my childhood, like, did the traumas I faced, childhood, adulthood,
Impact this
impact it?
discussion.
I'm going to say to a large extent it did, or
Okay.
to a very good extent. A lot of people shy away from it.
Mm-hmm.
They will say things like, I came to this conclusion myself. Yes, but I still feel like the
Mm-hmm.
circumstances around you, the situations around you lead you to a
To a
certain
certain
point where you
point.
say, this is this, this is this.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it played a huge part. I mean, I saw a lot of contradictions. I said to you the story I shared where I talked about the guy that groped my butt. He was a deacon in the church
The
that my
church
dad
you
was like a
attended.
minister, like a
Mm-hmm.
reverend there, and you see them praying and crying, and you're trying to uh
Connect who you saw outside and
yeah, yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
mm-hmm.
Trying to connect, like, that empathy, that love that they talk
You
about.
preach.
Yeah, and their characters are far from it. You see them being mean to people that are helpless, and you ask yourself, but I thought there's a way we should be, even in generosity, in being kind. For me, an adult to a child is very personal for me. You see the way they treat children, almost like make them outcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask yourself, where is it? And this is just one aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
But did it shape it? Like my experience, 100%. Not all of it, but I'm not going to ever deny the fact that it's part
It's
of the things that
part of
led me to
yeah.
where I was. I also had one experience, and by this time I was probably 28. No,
Wow.
28. Yeah, because I'd left the church then. I was 28 or 29, and I happened to be in a car with this guy. I mean, we got into an argument on something that is my field. You know,
Okay.
I would even relate an experience I had with, like, my now husband.
Husband.
It's very similar to that, to tell you that it was still there in me
Yeah.
somewhere. So I mean, he said something, and like I said in my previous interview, I believe the guy is a dumb XXX. Yeah. So I mean, he said something like LinkedIn is the same as Instagram, or LinkedIn is the same as Facebook. And I'm like, that doesn't, there's no way they are the same. One is geared towards business. So, and I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to one is get towards business, the other is get towards like social life.
Mm-hmm.
And he put his hand to his head like, don't you have said, oh man, I lost it.
Wow.
I started banging the dashboard, not where he's driving, it's part of the
The
shotgun.
passenger.
I was banging, drop me out. Like the guy was visibly shaking.
Shocked, like
What is wrong with I went from 0 to 100, and I'm
100.
explaining to you, I'm saying it very mild. I was
But
like a mad
it wasn't
woman.
like that.
Yes, I was banging.
Wow.
Get me out of the and where he was driving on the express.
Wow.
So my reaction first startled him, and then I was like, drop me, you must drop me now.
Wow.
After a while he calmed me down, but I know he related the issue to someone else and still mentioned that there's something wrong with me upstairs. But by that time I was I mean, you can say what you want to say. The main thing is I'm not dating you anymore. But that experience let me know that,
The trigger
it was
still
like
there.
it was still in me. I remember, after I started going out with
Your
Vi,
husband.
I'll be relating to him that it's like people think I'm stupid. And everything is surrounding. They might just say, oh, like I remember his then boss, it felt like he wanted to swindle me
Okay.
out of what he said he'll pay me. And then I was relating to him that he thinks I'm stupid. It's because he thinks I don't have sense. And he'd be like, why does your mind go to I'm stupid? Why does it go there? And as much as I didn't want to admit it to him, then it was the fact that
trigger.
I felt people looked at me through the lens of my mom, who had like a mental issue. Then there was one particular day, I don't even remember what the fight was between myself and Vi, but I think he told me, oh, sit down, I want to talk to you. In my head, I said, do you want to control me?
I'm sorry. I can imagine the shock.
You want to control me? I should sit down. Are you commanding me? I mean, if someone had seen, they'd be like, what is wrong with this girl? How did you go
from what he
but
said? It was a trigger.
I mean, like I grew up in an environment, especially from the church, where like they tell the women what to do. They say things like women don't speak in the church, they're only useful in the kitchen.
Wow.
Shockingly, I would say 70% of the guys I grew up in the same church, I'm really sorry to say it, they can't really fend for a family. Either their parents are bankrolling them. Not the word is not even bankroll. They are sustaining them. They're just useless. So as much as I went against, I like groomed myself to go against that culture where they'll tell you sit at home, but yet they can't provide. Still, it followed me out where I'm always looking for the next one that wants to tell me to sit down, or your place is in the house. And again, it's not that I don't enjoy serving, but it's just that no, you're not going to get me to that point where I'll be like timid and talk, and
it's a trigger.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about.
I like the part of mine. It was really because I could imagine and I think I've ever been in that kind of situation where someone is saying something
and then your mind
I'm going somewhere else. Then later by myself I'll be like, guy.
After I did it to him, and I actually saw the shock on his face. And I told myself, this thing actually got bad. So the sit down that I said to sit down, and not sat down.
It's that you went to sit again. It was good. Like if I was by, I probably would be laughing after you sit. But so that's the point. Like for every trauma experience, there's always a trigger.
Yes.
That is set for the future. You wouldn't even know that. I was having a conversation with my sister-in-law, and she was like, there are even times that you would think that you're out of the woods.
100%. It will come up.
And then you'd be like, but I thought I was done with this. Like I thought I was
100%. I agree. It's still, like I said, it's still there. I think I'm going to bring in what you said again. It's now that we are just aware.
Yeah.
And in moments where we catch ourselves, we can
Can take a
backtrack. But
step
you
back.
know, life is such that you won't always get it right. There are times
Yes,
when,
yes.
you know,
So this mindset that you have, knowing that, oh, it's still there, oh, but I have to be conscious. Or even when I'm not conscious, I need to call myself back.
back.
That is healing. That is
Mm,
for you to be able to say that and feel that and admit that. It shows that you're reparenting your inner child.
mm.
One major thing to know that you're not out of the woods yet is not admitting it.
Ah,
So once you're able to sit and say, this is a trigger, this is what I do when this happens, or that reaction I just gave is a trigger, it's
that.
not normal,
Mm,
right? It's a pointer to the fact that you're actually healing.
mm,
So, and that you're here and you're admitting to that, it's amazing that you've been able to take charge, which is not easy. I speak as a fellow, trauma
mm.
survivor. So, which brings us to our next question. Um, what did you do differently? Like, how did you
Okay.
get to this point where you can sit, share your story, where you can acknowledge your triggers, where you're healing? What did you do?
Okay, so I would say this. One of the first actions I took towards, or that made me aware, sorry, that I had this issue was I could never keep a relationship. Like
Okay.
it would always
Go
go bad, you
downhill.
know. And I mean, there was a period where it's not me, it's them. I'm a good person. I don't know if that has ever happened to you, where
Oh,
you're,
trust me, it
I'm a
has.
great person. Like they should be privileged to have this. And
I know.
I remember, like, where the day I sat down in my first apartment and I told myself, you can't, it cannot not be you,
Yeah.
because everybody, there's not one you've kept.
Yes. It
So
can't just be
so
them
before you start saying it's them, why
look
not look
inward.
inward?
Yeah.
That's one of the first times, I
You
said to
became
myself,
self-aware.
I'm the asshole,
Yeah.
I'm the
You're the
person with the
issue here.
problem. And when I became aware of that, one of the first things I did was try and read, you know
Mm.
um I read relationship books. I read
Mm-hmm.
self-help books. I know people will say they don't believe in self-help.
No, it works. It
That's for
works.
you, but for
Yeah.
me, I was very deliberate in fixing the inner man,
Mm-hmm.
and it also helped me learn to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It also helped me learn to. That's why you hear me say I love my dad a lot, but this situation, I feel it was mean. It was not
Yeah.
nice. It helped me as much as I talk about my dad. There's that grace knowing that he was doing the
Yes.
best.
Yes.
I
That
used
you
to tell
weren't
people,
pouring all the
yeah, I
blame.
wasn't pouring all the anger on him. People say like she's rude, but um, working on myself allowed me to give him the grace to understand that he did the best
He
he
could.
could. He had three girls. His wife, with her medical
Was
condition, they
not
were not
present.
together. There was a time when I thought, oh, maybe he feared my three girls will come with issues like
Yeah.
pregnancies. I'll be shamed in the church.
Mm.
It helped me see things from his
From his
perspective.
perspective.
But like I said to you, one defining moment was when I realized I couldn't keep a relationship. It's one thing or the other, and it's always them. So
Mm.
it helped. I Not that it helped me. I looked inward and said, "I'm the asshole. I'm going to work on myself."
Yeah.
Another thing I did, which you've alluded to, again, I heard this in the church. When you find the problem,
Mm-hmm.
you are halfway
You're
to the
halfway.
solution.
Yes.
So, like, I knew that I found that was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
One, two, I had to come to terms with admitting when I'm the problem. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Yes.
it's
This is
you.
me.
How do you work against,
Mm-hmm.
or how do
How do
you
you correct
repair
it?
this?
Yeah.
That was another thing I actively did. I feel like I've always been very empathetic, but to a large extent, again, that helped guide me in situations where I feel I don't think I messed up here. I messed up here.
Mm-hmm.
But probably they were thinking this, that, and the other. So
Yeah.
that's why it
Mm-hmm.
happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so these are the things that shaped me.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say to a large extent, I won't agree with me on this, but to a large extent, my liberalism
Mm-hmm.
helped me too, knowing that it's okay for someone to have a
A
different
different
set of
perspective,
views,
belief,
belief from me,
yes,
and we can
still
thrive,
exist
exist, be
together.
possibly be best of friends. And
Mm-hmm.
even when we differ in the conversation,
Not
but not in the
all round,
friendship
yes,
or in the life outside of that one discussion. So
yes.
these are the things that helped me.
That makes sense. So you became self-aware,
Hmm.
then you educated yourself
Yourself
on
100%. So
so
I will tell you, to a large extent, that educating myself is what is I will give a large chunk of
your progress.
yes to that. Yeah,
Yeah,
reading
yes.
self-help books,
So when you
practicing what
see
you
it, you're
read.
not shocked. You
I'm
know
not.
what it is because you've educated
Mm,
yourself.
mm.
So maybe after now you can drop some of the books that you read. I'll just leave it in the link.
Okay.
So I was having a conversation with someone and she was sexually assaulted when she
Oh,
was younger and it has gone on to affect her active life,
yeah,
when it
yeah,
comes to
yeah.
that. Now, they were about getting married. She brought the question up like, do you think I should tell him?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not going to say what I said, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
since you're here and
What's my
you're a live example. So do you think people should tell their spouses or their partners
what
their
they've done?
trauma?
They are traumatic. So it helps to share. I feel it helps to share because if you are both actively working towards the relationship, he's going to understand some of your reactions.
Yes, your
He may not understand
triggers,
everything, or he sees it from a empathetic
point of
side.
view.
Oh, there's a reason why she did
She's
this,
yeah.
or he's able to give you that grace, and he or she is able to give you that grace and keep quiet in the moment where you are experiencing what you're experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
trusting that you by yourself will come to the
Mm.
conclusion that, oh, I messed up.
This was
Or even if you don't come to that conclusion, when they have a conversation with you, you would listen.
mm-hmm.
You will give them that listening ear. So tell them, like, let's have a discussion. But
Mm-hmm.
if it should ever come up, I believe you should share. It will help the relationship.
I agree. I agree. Anyways, that's a
This
conversation
one on its own.
on its own. There's this thing that's going on around about support network resource. Do you think this helps, like to be part
Oh,
of a community that you guys
being
share?
part of a community always helps. I don't think you can ever take out that feeling of togetherness, feeling
Yes,
of someone understands me.
I get
You
you.
can never take it away from
Yes,
community. So is it
yes.
important? Yes. The issue there is helping people understand that this is a safe
Safe
space
space.
and
Yeah.
you can open up and it will never be used against you.
Of course not. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like that is so. There was someone, I don't know who tweeted and said, if you want to preserve your mental health, never ever read the comment section of an abuse case in Nigeria. I tell you,
Mm,
it is true.
I
I
agree.
feel like no victim should. There was one case that trended. I'm not going to go into details
Mm-hmm.
because that's not what we're here to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it was he used to beat me. He used to do this.
Mm-hmm.
The person said, "Oh, she ate my money or she did this." My question is, yes, okay. Let's say that she married you for
Yes, it
business.
happened.
Yes, but did you abuse her? I feel like
Mm,
I feel like once abuse is on the table, whether it's sexually,
physically,
physically, verbally, whether it is the man that suffered it or the woman that suffered, I feel like every other card should be off the
should be
table.
kept
Then
off.
that should be investigated because
Mm,
I feel like it's overlooked in Nigeria.
it is overlooked. There are situations where they will tell you it's parenting.
Mm,
That's the abuse. They will tell you it's parenting.
yeah,
They will tell you it's discipline. They
yeah.
give it all sorts of names, but what it
What it
is,
is.
abuse.
Yes. So no victim should ever have to think, is it safe? Will I get backlash? Baby
Mm,
girl or baby boy, you're the one that
so
suffered the
the
abuse or the
abuse.
trauma.
But the sad thing about it is not all communities are safe spaces.
Yes, that's true.
That
That's
is
very
it
true.
great? Yes. Will it take you time finding that community that is your safe space?
Mm-hmm.
It might not, but there's a part of me that wants everybody to know that it's not all communities that are safe spaces. Take
Mm-hmm.
for example the church I grew up in.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
community but not a
So I
safe
feel like
space.
the challenge, I'm a Christian,
Okay.
but I feel like the challenge we have with some of this churches, I don't want to say Christian gathering because
Mm-hmm.
I know being a Christian means you're Christ like. Some of these supposed churches these days, it's a cult. Yeah.
100%.
Yes,
I
like
was avoiding the word, but
it's a
you
cult.
brought it out.
I feel like a lot of these church goers are hypocrites. Do as I say,
Say
not
that
as
as
I
I
do.
do. Yeah,
But
yeah.
Christ, when Jesus Christ wanted his disciples to serve, he served them first. He washed their feet. Peter now said, "No, don't wash my feet.
I'm supposed
And
to,
I'm supposed to.
yeah,
I'm teaching you
what to do.
what to do." So, in
100%.
teaching what to do, he didn't tell them, he showed
Showed
them.
them.
So you can't be saying love, 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 and
You
the
can't,
people. And
yeah, they
one
can't
thing
see
is,
it.
if you see a leader, not just in church, any leader, workplace, church, house, if you see a leader at the top that loves the people that he's leading, it
It will
shows.
tell you, like, they don't need to
They
tell
don't need
you.
to tell you. A
Yes.
child raised with love and a
So
child that is not raised with
it's
love,
very
they
obvious.
are two
Yeah,
different
yeah,
people.
yeah, 100%.
So, the thing we want to talk about is there are people that are currently going through one form of trauma or the other. There are some persons that are still in abusive relationships,
Relationships.
some persons that are still living under abusive parents, some persons are still in cults that they are being told this is it, this is that. There are some persons that have not healed or that don't even know what healing is. What advice would you give?
Give. So I won't lie, it's a tough one. There's an experience, not my experience, but someone I'm close to who I feel is out of the toxic environment,
Mm-hmm.
but hasn't dealt with it.
Yeah.
Person will call me for advice. I will do my best, but I don't see the effects.
Yet.
So for me, I would say it's very hard for me to say this is the advice that I give.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part of me that would rather choose to wait until they decide I'm done with
I'm
this.
ready to move.
I'm ready to move because it's a very difficult situation to be in.
Mm-hmm.
That's whichever one you are in.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I have one person on one side that has left but still dealing with issues. I have another person that is still
Still
in
in
there,
that situation.
and I remember speaking to the person one of the times, and like she went all out. I said she anyway. She went all out at me. I don't know what I'm talking about, and I had to understand that I've been here.
I've been here,
There's a
sorry.
time
I
I
couldn't
just like
sleep.
I can't see it. You are talking. I will defend it to the highest
Yeah,
heavens. For me, what advice would I give? It's very difficult, and these two people I'm talking about, they are as close to me as they
they're
can
there
get.
to your
Yeah.
heart.
So what I would say is just be there for them, whichever reaction,
If
how
you're
they treat
someone
it.
that is around
That
someone
yeah,
like
that
just
you've
be for them.
gotten, not that you've gotten over, but you've come out.
Mm,
You have dealt with trauma. You are
mm-hmm,
still you have tools on how
mm-hmm,
to deal with the triggers.
mm-hmm.
Just be there for them.
Like it's not something
It's
that
not
someone can say, "Oh, I'm
do this,
advising you
do
like
this.
this."
No,
Yes,
no.
I get you. I get you, and that makes total sense. Lastly, before we let you go, what advice do you have for parents? So there's one
Okay.
question I think I want to ask,
Okay.
right? And from that, when you give your answer, please just advise
Okay.
parents
Okay.
now, right? Both old and new parents.
Parents. Okay.
Um, you have a child, right? Your baby
On the
has
way.
finally come.
Okay. Okay. It has
Your baby
finally
has
come.
finally come.
Yeah.
He or she is grown. Okay, let's use your religious stance now. Mommy, I I know that you're this, but for me
This.
I want to be a Christian or I want to
Want
be a
to
Muslim.
What would
right?
I do?
Or you want them to be or no, maybe growing up, yeah, I
I
thought they
said,
would be a doctor, right?
okay,
Let me use that one.
okay, and they tell me I
And
want to
then I
be a
say,
footballer,
no, footballer, maybe, well, I want to be a singer.
singer.
What are you going
To do.
to do? And from your answer,
Mm-hmm.
please give an advice to
To
parents.
parents. Okay, so the short answer is I'm not going to do anything. I think the least I would do is tell them there's always two sides to a coin.
Mm-hmm.
In Let's take the example of a singer. I would say most people see Burna Boy when he has made it, not
But
when
do
he's
not see the
struggling. I
struggles.
would always show them the two sides
Mm-hmm.
to it. But this is something I again always talk to my husband about, where I would tell him when I got to this point in my life and I still had the desire to have children, I would always say things like, there's a part of me that has no expectation of them. And
Okay.
when I say expectation, I don't mean like for them to be good, honest. What I mean is, I want them to be this, I want them to be that,
Mm.
or they should not come home and tell me they are homosexual. I have none of, because I feel these are things that I'm raising an individual
Individual,
with
a
their own
separate
mind.
person.
It's not, I would always say, it's not a
It's not
mini
your
me.
mini you.
It's not me. It's
Mm.
another individual.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have to accept what they want for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how I would say I have dreams for them, they have that
They have their own
individual has
dreams,
his own
yeah.
dreams. So why do I want my own to supersede what they
Mm-hmm.
want for
For
themselves?
themselves, yeah.
So like I said, short answer is I won't do anything
Mm-hmm.
because he has made up his own mind. So my advice to
Parents.
parents is, let these children be. Like I said, be aware of the fact that that's not a mini me.
Mm.
That's an individual that just looks like you. That's the
Mm.
best you can get.
Mm.
You might decide my life is going A, and that child says it's Z that my
Is
life is.
see I want.
And you are going to have to accept it, because you
Mm.
cannot make decisions for him, want him to do things like you. He's a
Mm-hmm.
separate individual, or she's a separate individual.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice to the parents, let them be. Let
Mm.
them, yes, I brought you into the world. As far as I have breath in me,
Mm-hmm.
whether you are great, not great, or you are terrible, I would always have it in me to look after you, to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that you are okay. I won't spoil you, but if you come to me to say, I'm broke, I'm not going to turn you away. I brought you to this
Mm-hmm.
world. You didn't bring
Yeah.
yourself. So if
Yeah.
you tell me I should be able to help you, that's the
Yes.
kind of parent I want to be.
Yeah.
But it ends there, in the sense that I want to provide the shelter, the money,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that will make you okay. Of course,
Comfortable.
I will teach you to self sustain,
Mm-hmm.
but if you become a liability,
I'm
they
going to
say,
be there for you
I'm going
regardless.
to be there for you.
Yes.
But I draw the line when you take another human being's life. That's where I draw the
Yes.
line.
Yes.
But my advice to parents, let them be. Yeah,
Yes.
let them be.
Yes. Well, thank you
You're
very much,
welcome. I enjoyed
Topsy,
myself.
for coming and for delivering wisdom. Wisdom. So I hope you've been able to draw inspiration from our esteemed guest that came on today. If you have further questions, or if you have comments, or if you're currently going through something similar, or a traumatic experience that you feel like you need to share, or you feel like this story inspired you, please drop your comments in the comment section.
Thank you.
And but
Okay.
yeah, thank you so much for
Thank
tuning in.
you.
And once again, from Evaluator's Corner, I love you guys. Stay winning, and don't forget, as I always say, know your worth and add task. I love you.